Sorry. Good morrow, scholars. So, I went back and I checked, and yeah, Chapter 3 had to be redone. So, anyway, let's just jump right into it. Oh, okay, I remember. The fold-up table in his private office was set, the food was ready to serve, and Talon Card was just pouring the wine when the tap came on his door. As always, his timing was perfect. "Mara," he called. "Yes," the young woman's voice confirmed through the door. "You asked me to join you for dinner." "Yes, please come in." The door slid open, and with her usual cat-like grace, Mara Jade walked into the room. "You didn't say what?" Her green eyes flicked to the elaborately set table. "This was all about," she finished, her tone just noticeably different. The green eyes came back to him, cool and measuring. "No, it's not what you're thinking," Card assured her, motioning her to the chair opposite his. "This is a business meal, no more, no less." From behind his desk came a sound halfway between a cackle and a purr. "That's right, Drang. A business meal," Card said, turning toward the sound. "Come on, out with you." The Vornsker peered out from around the edge of the desk, its front paws gripping the carpet, its muzzle close to the floor as if on the hunt. "I said out with you," Card repeated firmly, pointing toward the open door behind Mara. "Come on, your dish has been set up in the kitchen. Sturm's already there. Chances are he's eaten half your supper by now." Reluctantly, Drang slunk out from behind the desk, cackle purring forlornly to himself as he padded toward the door. "Don't give me that poor little me act," Card chided, taking a piece of braised buralki from the serving dish. "Here, this should cheer you up." He tossed the food in the general direction of the doorway. Drang's lethargy vanished in a single coiled spring leap as he snagged the mouthful in midair. "There," Card called after him. "Now go and enjoy your supper." The Vornsker trotted out. "All right," Card said, shifting his attention back to Mara. "Where were we?" "You were telling me this was a business meal," she said, her voice still a little cool as she slid into the seat across from his and surveyed the table. "It's certainly the nicest business meal I've had in quite a while." "Well, that's the point, really," Card told her, sitting down himself and reaching over to the serving tray. "I think it's occasionally good for us to remember that being a smuggler doesn't necessarily require one to be a barbarian, too." "Ah," she nodded, sipping at her wine, "and I'm sure most of your people are so very grateful for that reminder." Card smiled. So much, he thought, for the unusual setting and scenario throwing her off balance. He should have known that particular gambit wouldn't work on someone like Mara. "It does often make for an interesting evening," he agreed, "particularly," he eyed her, "when discussing a promotion." A flicker of surprise, almost too fast to see, crossed her face. "A promotion," she echoed carefully. "Yes," he said, scooping a serving of buralki onto her plate and setting it in front of her. "Yours, to be precise." The wary look was back in her eyes. "I've only been with the group for 6 months, you know." 5.5, actually, he corrected her. "But time has never been as important to the universe as ability and results, and your ability and results have been quite impressive." Wink, wink. She shrugged, her red-gold hair shimmering with the movement. "I've been lucky," she said. "Luck is certainly a part of it," he agreed. "On the other hand, I found that what most people call luck is often little more than raw talent combined with the ability to make the most of opportunities." He turned back to the buralki, dished some onto his own plate. "Shut up, Maru." He does that on purpose, I'm almost certain of it. Where was I? Really? Where was I? Dished some onto his own plate. "Then there's your talent for starship piloting, your ability to both give and accept orders," he smiled slightly, gesturing to the table, "and your ability to adapt to unusual and unexpected situations. All highly useful talents for a smuggler." He paused, but she remained silent. Evidently, somewhere in her past, she'd also learned when not to ask questions. Another useful talent. "The bottom line, Mara, is that you're simply too valuable to waste as a backup or even as a line operator," he concluded. "What I'd like to do is to start grooming you toward eventually becoming my second-in-command." There was no chance of mistaking her surprise this time. The green eyes went momentarily wide, and then narrowed. "What exactly would my new duties consist of?" she asked. "Traveling with me, mostly," he said, taking a sip of wine. "Watching me setting up new business, meeting with some of our long-term customers so they can get to know you, that sort of thing." She was still suspicious, and he could tell that from her eyes. Suspicious that the offer was a smokescreen to mask some more personal request or demand on his part. "You don't have to answer now," he told her. "Think about it, or talk to some of the others who've been with the organization longer." He looked her straight in the eye. They'll tell you that I don't lie to my people. Her lip twisted. So I've heard, she said, her voice going non-committal again. But bear in mind that if you give me that kind of authority, I am going to use it. There's some revamping of the whole organizational structure. She broke off as the intercom on his desk warbled. Yes, Card called toward it. It's Aves, a voice said. Thought you'd like to know. We've got company. An Imperial Star Destroyer just made orbit. Card glanced at Mara as he got to his feet. Any make on it yet? He asked, dropping his napkin beside his plate and stepping around the desk to where he could see the screen. They're not exactly broadcasting ID SIGs these days, Aves shook his head. The lettering on the side is hard to read at this distance, but Torv's best guess is that it's the Chimera. Interesting, Card murmured. Grand Admiral Thrawn himself. Have they made any transmissions? None that we've picked up. Wait a minute. Looks like... Yes, they're launching a shuttle. Make that 2 shuttles. Projected landing point... Aves frowned at something off-screen for a moment. Projected landing point somewhere here in the forest. Out of the corner of his eyes, Card saw Mara stiffen a bit. Not in any of the cities around the edge, he asked Aves. No, it's definitely the forest. No more than 50 kilometers from here, either. Card rubbed his forefinger gently across his lower lip, pondering the possibilities. Now I have to do it. Have you ever seen or read somebody doing something, and then you feel the need to do it yourself? I have that problem all the time. How many more pages are left? We're almost there. Let's see. Still only 2 shuttles? That's all so far. Aves was starting to look a little nervous. Should I call an alert? On the contrary, let's see if they need any help. Give me a hailing channel. Aves opened his mouth, closed it again. Okay, he said, taking a deep breath and tapping something off screen. You have hailing. Thank you. Imperial Star Destroyer Chimera, this is Talon Card. May I be of any assistance to you? No response, Aves muttered. You think maybe they didn't want to be noticed? If you don't want to be noticed, you don't use a Star Destroyer, Card pointed out. No, they're most likely busy running my name through the ship's records. Be interesting to see someday just what they have on me, if anything. He cleared his throat. Star Destroyer Chimera, this is... Abruptly, Aves' face was replaced by that of a middle-aged man wearing a captain's insignia. This is Captain Pelion of the Chimera, he said briskly. What is it you want? Merely to be neighborly, Card told him evenly. We tracked 2 of your shuttles coming down and wondered if you or Grand Admiral Thrawn might require any assistance. The skin around Pelion's eyes tightened just a bit. Who? Ah. Card nodded, allowing a slight smile. Of course, I haven't heard of Grand Admiral Thrawn either. Certainly not in connection with the Chimera, or with some intriguing information raids on several systems in the Pawanid Abroa Sky region either. The eyes tightened a little more. You're very well informed, Mr. Card, Pelion said, his voice silky but with menace lurking beneath it. One might wonder how a lowly smuggler would come by such information. Card shrugged. My people hear stories and rumors. I take the pieces and put them together, much the same way your own intelligence units operate, I imagine. Incidentally, if your shuttles are planning to put down in the forest, you need to warn the crews to be careful. There are several dangerous predator species living here, and the high metal content of the vegetation makes sensor readings unreliable at best. Thank you for your advice, Pelion said, his voice still frosty. But they won't be staying long. Ah, Card nodded, running the possibilities through his mind. There were, fortunately, not all that many of them. Doing a little hunting, are they? Pelion favored him with a slightly indulgent smile. Information on Imperial activities is very expensive. I'd have thought a man in your line of work would know that. Indeed, Card agreed, watching the other closely, but occasionally one finds bargains. It's the Ysalamiri you're after, isn't it? The other's smile froze. There are no bargains to be had here, Card, he said after a moment, his voice very soft. And expensive can also mean costly. True, Card said, unless, of course, it's traded for something equally valuable. I presume you're already familiar with the Ysalamiri's rather unique characteristics, otherwise you wouldn't be here. Can I assume you're also familiar with the somewhat esoteric art of safely getting them off of their tree branches? Pelion studied him, suspicion all over his face. I was under the impression that the Ysalamiri were no more than 50 centimeters long and not predatory. I wasn't referring to your safety, Captain, Card told him. I meant theirs. You can't just pull them off their branches, not without killing them. And Ysalamiri, in this stage, is sessile. Its claws have elongated to the point of where they've essentially grown directly into the core of the branch it inhabits. And you, I suppose, know the proper way to do it? Some of my people do, yes, Card told him. If you'd like, I could send one of them to rendezvous with your shuttles. The technique involved isn't especially difficult, but it really does have to be demonstrated. Of course, Pelion said, heavily sardonic. And the fee for this esoteric demonstration? No fee, Captain. As I said, we're just being neighborly. Pelion cocked his head slightly to one side. Your generosity will be remembered. For a moment he held Card's gaze, and there was no mistaking the twin-edged meaning to the words. If Card was planning some sort of betrayal, it too would be remembered. I'll signal my shuttles to expect your expert. He'll be there. Goodbye, Captain. Pelion reached for something off camera, and once again Aves's face was replaced on the screen. Or replaced his on the screen. What? You get all that, Card? Asked the other. Aves nodded. Dankin and Chin are already warming up one of the skip rays. Good. Have them leave an open channel, and I'll want to see them as soon as they're back. Right. The display clicked off. Card stepped away from the desk, glanced back at Mara, and reseated himself at the table. Sorry for the interruption, he said, conversationally, watching her out of the corner of his eye, as he poured himself some more wine. Slowly, the green eyes came back from infinity, and as she looked at him, the muscles of her face eased from their death-like rigidness. You really not going to charge them for this? She asked, reaching a slightly unsteady hand for her own wine. They'd certainly make you pay if you wanted something. That's about all the Empire really cares about these days. Money. He shrugged. We get to have our people watching them from the moment they set down to the moment they lift off. That seems an adequate fee to me. She studied him. You don't believe they're here just to pick up Ysalamiri, do you? Not really. Card took a bite of his Buralki. At least, not unless they're, say, used for things that we don't know about. Coming all the way out here to collect Ysalamiri is a bit of an overkill to use against a single Jedi. Mara's eyes again drifted away. Maybe it's not Skywalker they're after, she murmured. Maybe they found some more Jedi. Seems unlikely, Card said, watching her closely, the emotion in her voice when she said Luke Skywalker's name. The Emperor supposedly made a clean sweep of them in the early days of the New Order. Unless, he added as another thought occurred to him, they've perhaps found Darth Vader. Vader died on the Death Star, Mara said, along with the Emperor. That's the story, certainly. Wishbone. He died there, Mara cut him off, her voice suddenly sharp. Of course, Card nodded. It had taken him 5 months of close observation, but he'd finally pinned down the handful of subjects guaranteed to trigger strong responses from the woman. The late Emperor was among them, as was the pre-Endor Empire. And at the opposite end of the emotional spectrum was Luke Skywalker. Still, he continued thoughtfully, if a Grand Admiral thinks he has a good reason to carry Ysalamiri aboard his ships, we might do well to follow his lead. Abruptly, Mara's eyes focused on him again. What for? She demanded. A simple precaution, Card said. Why so vehement? I don't know if I pronounced that word correctly. He watched as she fought a brief internal battle. It seems like a waste of time, she said. Thrawn's probably just jumping at shadows. Anyway, how are you going to keep Ysalamiri alive on a ship without transplanting some trees along with them? I'm sure Thrawn has some ideas as to the mechanics of it, Card assured her. Dankin and Chin will know how to poke around for details. Her eyes seemed strangely hooded. Yes, she muttered, her voice conceding defeat. I'm sure they will. And in the meantime, Card said, pretending not to notice, we still have business to discuss. As I recall, you were going to list some improvements you would make in the organization. Yes, Mara took another deep breath, closing her eyes, and when she opened them again, she was back to her usual cool self. Yes, well, slowly at first, but with ever-increasing confidence, she launched into a detailed and generally insightful compendium of his group's shortcomings. Card listened closely as he ate, wondering again at the hidden talents of this woman. Someday, he promised himself silently, he was going to find a way to dig the details of her past from under the cloak of secrecy she'd so carefully shrouded it with, to find out where she'd come from and who and what she was, and to learn exactly what it was Luke Skywalker had done to make her so desperately hate him. Okay, so that was Chapter 3. I can't believe I had to redo 3 videos. No, I can believe it. I'm kind of dumb. Alright, I'm going to fix the order in the thing. I'm so sorry I keep wasting your guys' time. I promise it's not going to happen again. Well, it's going to happen again, because, let's face it, you know, I think in the first time I mentioned this, I talked about the known knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns, and then I think I talked about Steven's known unknowns. Anyway, so if something comes up, please, I implore you to let me know. I will immediately fix it, or as quickly as possible fix it. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'm sorry again. I will fix everything as soon as possible. I mean, it's pretty much done. I just need to get the order right. And I will see you all in the next video, I hope. Hi, Iggy. Yeah, he's mad. Anyway, until next time, goodbye, everybody. Again, I'm really sorry that I messed up. But hey, have you met me?